Call the meeting to order. All right, the first item on our agenda are the minutes from the last meeting, which was November 28th, 2022.
Oh, no wonder I forgot everybody's name.
Did anyone have any questions or comments or edits needed to make on the minutes? No?
Sorry, this is allergies.
It's fair.
Totally understand,
understand.
Joanne.
You want a hard candy? Oh,
You got it.
okay, you're good.
All right, I'm going to request a motion to approve the meeting minutes from November 28th.
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right. Minutes are approved. Bid proposal in the year ahead. Oh, okay, great. So item number 2, we put out an RFP for consultants a month or 2 months ago. And so we got our responses back. We got our response back. And so it's all on, it was emailed out to everybody and it's on the town website. So.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What is, can we see who has been approached and has someone been chosen? Is that on our public site?
Yes,
I didn't see that.
yes. So this is the consultant BFJ planning.
What's the, you know,
And so we emailed you out this along with all the chapters in the email. So it's also on the town website. It's posted for you to look at.
this is also just the first.
No, this is it.
This is the only one that came.
It's the only one we got.
This is the only one that came
Yes.
back.
We sent out
We have one.
at least, 89 emails?
Yeah.
And this is the only
Contacted.
one we got back. We contacted a list of almost 100 people. And so, and further. But this
Actually, I
is,
was very impressed with the quality of the background. I mean, usually you read these things and the About Shelter Island section is, but it was,
The one, our principal that's going to be really helping us, or really on our team, leading our team, is Sag Harbor. So that does help.
yeah, they have a family house in Sag Harbor Grove out here, so he really knows the area.
Yeah.
They're also helping Riverhead complete their comprehensive plan. And they had a similar situation to us where they had one consultant start the plan and then it sort of went offline and now they're picking it back up to finish it. And so these consultants are also helping Riverhead finalize their plan. So this is not something new to them. And they've done multiple plans in the New York, New Jersey area.
Yeah.
May I ask why you think there was only one response? Was it how much we were all?
Tiny money.
It was, well, it's a combination of,
You don't offer.
it's a combination of the timeline, because we gave them a tight timeline.
What was the timeline?
We want the plan done by December. We want to make sure everything is finished, that.
By September?
No, December at the latest.
Includes a secret review
It
and
includes county review.
Suffolk County
state
planning.
review. It has to go to the Suffolk County Planning Commission. There's a whole bunch of steps that have to happen. And we wanted it to be done in a reasonable amount of time, because we started this in 2020. And everybody's put in a lot of time, and you guys have already dedicated 3 years to this, so it doesn't seem fair to drag it on any longer than need be if we can do it with professional assistance and really wrap it up cleanly. Lily?
I'm a little confused by how this is going to be coordinated and the timeline, because why go ahead and put these chapters down when the consultants haven't been at work on them? I don't understand how we can.
This is their basis.
This is so that they have something to go with.
you have to one person at a time.
I have not seen nor read the proposal. I've read everything else, but I didn't see.
well, it was emailed just yesterday, was
That's
it?
okay.
No,
Pardon?
23rd.
Take a seat.
23rd. It was emailed on the
Except that one.
23rd, if you want to
Bring
check.
another chair, that one's missing a wheel, you'll go for a
It
roll.
was emailed on the 23rd,
Okay,
the proposal.
sorry, I must have missed it.
So
okay.
when you read it,
But I've read everything else. I've looked through all the other chapters, and I just don't understand how it's going to coordinate.
well, that's in there. I mean, that's the.
I can,
Okay.
yeah, so we wanted to have all the chapters out for everybody to see, for the public to comment on, for everybody to have access to before the consultants came in, and we gave them everything that the public has seen, so that they can then have that information to work with.
It seems backwards. You want the consultants to, you created frameworks. Let's leave the housing aside because there was a community housing report. But for everything else, you're providing a framework in a chapter to a consultant who could be coming up with a very different conclusion.
And if they
I don't
do, if they
get
come up
it.
with a different conclusion, then they will present that conclusion to us. This was,
And this is also, no, I don't get it. Like, we've been talking about this all along. We were going to flesh this out, update it, get more of a Shelter Island take on it than the prior consultant was capable of doing. And then we were going to bring in a consultant to polish it, to
No,
make
this
sure
is
that
not,
there's no
well,
conflict.
polishing it is not the same as making the plan. Okay, I hear you, but it's not.
But we've
the
been
same.
saying that all along. We have been saying that all along. Okay.
And I have also had a problem with it all along, as have other members. The time, the sequencing is off.
okay.
I'd be a little worried if we did it
Pardon?
the other way. I'd be worried if we did it the other way, because the previous consultants kind of gave us this plan
Top-down.
that was, yeah, it was top down, and it was from some other, basically some other place. They didn't even know what it was like here. So by us providing this information, they've got something to work with, because I think there's an awful lot of uniqueness to this place.
Well, the problem is what information is given in that chapter. I had no input into it personally, so it's not my housing
Well-
chapter, the
We haven't touched
zoning
on it yet.
chapter,
Haven't done that
the
yet.
water and
We haven't
environment.
done-
I haven't had a chance to.
Nobody
touch
has.
Oh, we
That's
haven't had
that's what I'm
meetings.
saying, but it came from somewhere. So it's there. You know what I'm
It
saying?
is there, and it's there so that you can read it and look at it and comment it on it, and so that the general public can look at it and read it and comment on it before it's given to the consultant, so they can see everybody's comments, everybody's perspective, everybody, the things people like, the things people dislike, and then they can use their professional skills to go through what we did with our best ability and make it better, so that they can improve it and take the knowledge that they have and see where we made mistakes and fix them and work with just the basic information. But because we've already done this for half the chapters, it didn't make sense to give them half the chapters and then be like, okay, now you're on your own.
Yeah.
When we already had all the raw information.
Yeah.
So
We did our updates. And
that's why they're all on the website for everybody to put their input into, so that the consultants can have input from everybody and everybody's perspective, not just us.
And I think if we just used them only and started the other way, which you just mentioned, then we wouldn't have the input from Shelter Island. And even though the one principal, I think you said from Sag Harbor, they're still not from the island. So there's got to have that content has to be in there for them to review and think about.
so
Thank you.
that's how we're doing.
So I understand your concerns, but that's just the logic behind why we put everything out there for everybody to see, so that it wasn't like all of a sudden the consultants just came up with these chapters where they come from. This is the information that we had. This is the raw data. This is what's out there. So everybody can have input. So that was the thought process there. So moving forward, the consultants, so at tomorrow's board meeting, we're going to pass a resolution to bring them on board and hire them.
How much it is? How much is it?
90,000? Yep. So we have that in the budget. So we're still going to apply for a grant, because then, you know, if we can get a grant, that would be great, and we can save some money. And if we don't get a grant, we can still complete the project and we don't have to worry about it.
When you all do get to look at the proposal that was submitted, there is a calendar way back in a schedule, way at the back. And so that,
This was an attachment to Coco's email.
yeah, I believe so.
Yes.
Page 26.
It's interesting the way they've done it, but they just did month 1 through month 8. And so March would be your month 1, just to give you an idea of what they have in mind in terms of how they're going to be tackling this from a timeline point of view.
So there's a timeline in there, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Are
And
we still going to talk about the public meeting dates? We still have to
we're
consider.
going to set new public meeting dates with the consultants on board. So they're going to take the wheel at this point. So we are going to give it to people who know what they're doing, and we're going to say, please, we've taken this as far as we can. We've tried our hardest. We're not professional comp planners, but you are. So BJ and I are going to meet with them and coordinate what the schedule is going to look like moving forward. And then we will get back in touch and kind of help pick dates for public hearings and meetings. And we want to try to do a town hall style,
Yeah,
like at the school gym when
in
it's
August,
all
in
done,
summer
so that
when we have a big
everybody
population.
can talk about all the chapters, all the recommendations.
Great.
So that's all part of the plan. That's all things they have in here.
So we're canceling the March 20th.
Not quite yet.
Okay, just,
Let's just, we think so, but I see in the back of your head.
okay.
Yeah. Because it may be when the consultants can come and meet with everybody and fill you all in on what
Yeah.
they're.
I think, I do want to suggest that since so many chapters are going online and they're so important, this is really the guts, if we can dare say this, of the whole plan, the nitty gritty. I wouldn't do it in March when so many people are away.
Well, it wouldn't be to go over the chapters. It would be to get an introduction to the consultants.
It will be hard to get people together in that period
It
of
wouldn't
time
be-
between now and March, and there will not be many people on the island. I've had a lot of feedback to hold the meeting later.
Well, it's not just one meeting, though, it's many meetings, so what's the harm? We can hear from a different subset. It's not just one meeting, maybe you can think of it this way, in the summer, the local people are very busy, working their big
The-
job,
yeah,
you know,
the
2, 3
winter-
jobs, whatever they're doing, so we capture them this time of year, and not so much the part-time people, so that would.
Do it, yeah, to do it right, we need to offer multiple,
Meetings.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We also need to focus on the months when people are really here. From my almost 50 years on this island, I can't count the number of very important things that somehow get done in February, January and February, and then people find out about them. So I think we really want support for this.
We have Zoom
As
too.
you said, we were at a town-style meeting. So I
Well,
think
the town style meeting won't happen until the summer.
Yeah.
That's not scheduled anytime soon. That's like a July, August event. This is more an introduction to the consultants, what their plan is moving forward, how they want to approach it,
And
what their
contact
goals
about
are.
80
That would be
firms.
what this meeting would
These are
be.
the ones who respond.
Great.
Could I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
On the agenda, we have forthcoming chapters. We're still reviewing these ourselves?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that they are out and
Yeah.
you comment on them. They're all in your
The
SharePoint.
consultants will be
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
receiving
Yes.
updates as sort of like a living document,
It is-
basically.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
And any of the comments that we get through the link are all going to that spreadsheet, and that whole thing goes to the consultants. Everything that the public has commented on goes to the consultants. The drafts, like all those, that's all gonna
A
go.
question, before I guess when we last met, what was up on board was the economic development chapter that Ben and Petra and I worked on. And it has never been discussed, and I went and looked at it. In fact, I looked at all these chapters, but back at that one the other day, and none of the comments that I made or others have made are on the copy at all. In fact, even the grammatical corrections that I put on haven't been entered, Nick, so perhaps.
You mean on
they
the
could be
website?
updated On the website.
Okay,
They're
yeah, no,
not-
we haven't
nothing's
touched the
on
website. No, we didn't update anything on the website because you made all the comments in the SharePoint, but we never discussed all the comments, so I didn't update what's on the
Okay,
website.
but it is, and it's not up for discussion, so it will be discussed at some, my question is, will it be discussed, or will all that work have just been?
No, none of your work is just magically disappearing. It's all getting incorporated. It all goes to the consultants, and the consultants will draft whatever edits, corrections, whatever they think they need to do, and then we will all have
So
feedback.
wait, our comments and the comments of our fellow islanders
Are all going to be
are
sent to
going to
the
now
consultant.
go to the consultants.
Mhm.
So you won't have to be putting them up, but they're going to go to the consultants who will decide on whatever grounds what they will include and what they won't include. Is that the
Yeah.
process?
They will use their professional skills to develop a plan that's reflective of all the information they're receiving.
And the comments thereon.
Exactly.
So somebody posted a comment and you responded to it,
Yeah.
that's part of the information they'll
Well,
get.
and what's cool about this proposal is that they have kind of built into it a website specifically for the comp plan. And on that, it actually has a whole dialogue board where the community can go and actually have conversations with each other regarding certain topics of the plan. So it's almost like a Facebook page just for the comp plan is what they've kind of
So is
created.
that in addition to what you have on the town site?
It will be completely, it will essentially be, comp plan will be a link on the town website that takes you to this new webpage that has.
Everything
all
will
the
end up in one
information.
place, is what I'm saying.
That's what we-
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everything will be in one place.
That's what I like, because I think it'll be a much easier way, cleaner way.
Yep.
And I don't want to, not trying to diss our
Less
staff.
confusing.
It's less confusing. What we have going on our part of the town website is a lot.
It's
And it's a
labor
lot,
intensive.
yeah, very labor intensive and hard to kind of keeping
yeah.
up with. So for that to be part of this proposal is one of the greatest things when I read it. And I think will really help what you're looking for, Lily.
Right.
Is like, but I always say, like, the public's, constant commentary, keeping up with, knowing what's being said, and it's live and right there. So,
Good.
like Joanne said, like, it's reading RFPs a lot of times from different, companies that come through for many things. This was very complete, looked really good.
I think
It sounded like they knew something about the island before they.
Yeah, they did some work.
They did some work.
Yeah. And as I said, having the principals with Noah, okay. Anyway, yeah, which one? Is Sag Harbor guy.
Well, it was obvious too that they had read the chapters that we had posted, because I did send, we sent everybody a link to the comp plan website, and it was obvious that they had read what we had already done because they were able to discuss it with us. So they did do their homework. They came prepared to the interview. So I'm very
My
optimistic.
concern is community fatigue.
Yes,
As you said, I mean, this has
Yes.
been dragging on for a long
I
time.
agree.
And we're going to go back, we've been to the well a number of times, either, through the survey, through interviewing people, various groups, blah, 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 town committees. And yet, here we go, we're going to
I know.
go back again. And I'm concerned about how we can generate enough excitement and to get people re-engaged in the process and say, okay, this is it, the finish line is sort of in sight.
And I
Social media campaign.
and I also think to that we, accelerates not a great word to use because it frightens people, but I do think we have to speed up the process. We can't just linger
Yeah.
on every sentence anymore. It just isn't, we'll never get it done. And it's a goal to get it done.
Yeah, especially since you won't be around.
People need to see working towards a goal, and we're like, this is the timeline.
Yeah, but I mean, I have a feeling that people are going to roll their eyes and say, haven't we been down this road before?
And what do you mean we don't have 2 years to talk about something? Well, we don't. We just don't.
Just one concern about this new plan would be that in the past, we've had a chance to all of us sit and discuss a chapter or a section. We haven't done them all, obviously. And I thought that was very beneficial. We all could sit here face to face and talk about what we've done. And so if we're going to jump and, send some that we haven't had the opportunity to have comments on, just as a verbal type of situation here. I know we've all made our written comments, but so I just wonder if that's really wise. Maybe send them a block of them that we've completed, and then us continue with our verbal discussions on the ones we haven't. That's just a suggestion. And the second point is, on the very last section of each one of our chapters, we have a section called recommendations. They should be put in rank order. I've made that comment on every one I've reviewed. But the process to put them in rank order, to me, is like either we have a vote of the public, or we could do a face-to-face recommendation where we can really hash them out, put them in our order that we see is appropriate, and then have a discussion, obviously, with the community. So I just wonder about how we will do that if we just send the whole body to the consultants and we haven't had a chance to have that little.
Yeah, let's try to, let's
Very
set it
good.
up with that.
Very
Let's get their idea on how they want to.
You can also flag the chapters that haven't been discussed in this group yet.
Yes.
As in, those are more primitive, if you could use it, whatever.
They are, yeah.
Than the ones that we have had a chance, and that at least gives them something to work with, but at the same time alerts them that there may be more coming down the pike.
Right.
Makes sense.
And I want them to have a complete picture of like everything they have to work with, knowing that these are the things that we've already done a thorough review on, and these are the things that we haven't. So that's a good suggestion. And I totally get where you're coming from, John. So I do want to discuss the chapters as a group, but I want to make sure that, I want to see how it fits in with what they have planned
And in
to.
terms of meeting a timeline, then we might have to meet twice a month to do that. And if we can make it, great, but if we can't do that, then we can't do that. And we've had a little trouble. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, these are just the harsh realities right now. I do think the consultants will know, because the ones that we have thoroughly hashed out are labeled penultimate drafts. And the ones that we haven't are just drafts. So there is that sort
Yeah.
of key for them to be able to pay attention.
Well, and also the ones that we haven't discussed as a group, I will send them the version that has all your written comments in it and
Right.
corrections. So they'll get that version. So it'll be a marked up version.
Because it's hard to put all of that back.
Of course.
Yeah, it's still in the SharePoint for you to see.
Pardon?
It's still in the SharePoint for you to see,
Yeah.
too, as well. I mean, just so you know, you can get to it.
I have the SharePoint.
Let's see. So the timeline for this year is sort of up in the air at the moment until we have our meeting with the consultants. We can nail down a plan, figure out when we're going to have the big town hall style meetings and kind of what, you know, they foresee happening. Another thing that they said they wanted to do was kind of have discussions about some of the more challenging or controversial topics in like a larger forum so that, you know, we can discuss what might be controversial action items that way so that it's,
Yeah.
you know, thoroughly vetted and discussed.
Right, no more surveys. And maybe have a mediator again.
Right. Like we did with the town hall.
The housing, it worked out so well to have a mediator.
But they would kind of take on that role.
Yeah, yeah.
And they also want to do some focus groups with different like town committees and
Yeah.
other groups in the community, just to get their take on certain things. So that'll all be coordinating and coming up.
And again, a lot of groundwork is laid there because as liaisons, we've done a lot of that. It's in here, you know, it's in the work. But I think it's helpful to hear from the committees themselves.
And when they see the chapter, they see who they can talk to.
Yeah.
It gives them an idea of who's even on the island that, you know, they can communicate with. So I think, and I'm optimistic. Is there anything else? Let's see.
We do have enough time to dig into. Do you want to?
Could I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is it possible that we could have, I don't know if this is possible or not, like a regular column in the Reporter that just alerts the public to what's out there, reminding them and what's next or what's on the agenda? Even though I know we're having these meetings and
Yeah.
everything's on the website, a lot of people don't.
No, I think that's a good idea.
Julie has already agreed to that.
Yeah, so as soon as we have the consultants on board, we're going to do a, hey, welcome back to the comp plan. This is how we're moving forward. This is who we're working with. These are events to look forward to.
Next steps, yeah.
Yeah.
So I met the person who's, I think, the new person, social worker with the senior citizen, and she was like meeting with people. I said, well, you know, there's a comprehensive plan thing. She had no idea. Talk to them because, you know, the whole needs of seniors was, you know, factored very prominently in our discussions. So I think getting that word out there again and again, I don't think it's overkill.
No, I don't think so either. It's a good suggestion. And we did talk to Julie Lane about it before Christmas. And, you know, that's part of our plan moving forward is that she's going to help us write like
Interview us, really.
consistent articles, just getting information out there.
Yeah.
Petra, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't see it
Question.
earlier.
That's all right. Hi, everybody. A question on the consultant. I think one of the chapters, and this has come up over and over again, is the consensus around data of the island and how that informs every single chapter. Is there any thought given to the consultant spending time to make sure that we are really grounded in what do we mean by population growth? How does that compare and contrast to maybe what Riverhead is experiencing or other, towns on the North Fork. I think to me, that's such an important chapter to make sure that we all have that data because it does inform every other chapter, right? And so
Yes.
I'm curious if we have the opportunity, back to John's point of this group, do we have the opportunity to have them present that data, that we have a conversation around that before we go into some of these other chapters? I just think that's really important because we're using different data sources that can tell us different things. And I think there should be some consensus and commonality around what is the data that we're using, how are we interpreting it, what does it mean?
And that's why I'm so excited we have consultants.
Yeah, no, and
Besides-
I would be very interested in having a conversation with them around that, because I did spend some
Yes.
time
Yes.
taking a look at their
Good.
proposal. And if you're looking for people to have those kinds of conversations, I would enjoy that. So I will volunteer.
Okay, great. Yeah, because that's definitely sort of the first step of
Yep.
them taking over is determining our baseline and
Right.
how to interpret all that. And that's where they're the professionals. I am not, BJ is not. We try, but we're not. So that is why I'm very excited to have them on, so we can get a solid baseline of data and move forward from there. So great comment.
Very good. And do we have a planned session? I know you said that they were being approved tomorrow. Do we have any kind of session planned for this group with the consultants? And is that prior to the March 20th meeting?
It's in the back.
We will. We haven't set the date yet. We need to,
Okay.
BJ and I are going to meet with the consultants, and we need to develop the timeline, and then we need to set up a meeting with the whole CPAC so that we can kind of give everyone the plan.
Could that be via Zoom, legitimately via Zoom if need be? I'm just,
That
We'll
would
try
be-
to.
get everybody, as many people as we can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if we have an in-person quorum, I think.
Well, that was my question, whether we needed that for something like this.
We're not
To
taking-
check it out, but
We're gonna, yeah, we'll work on it. Working on it, Petra. That's.
We do have, we have a meeting every month at least, minimal, with the CPTF, the three of us and the consultants. Maybe we also could make that a sort of a working group so that, not a quorum comes from this, so we're not, you know what I'm saying? So there's some subset of you come to help inform whatever that topic might be. So,
That we're like a work session,
Yes.
breakout group.
A breakout group.
Something, committee work, something, just
Exactly.
rephrase it.
so I think that might actually work to get more of your thoughts, but in smaller groups in. And so it's
Yeah.
more productive, I think.
That would
So that
also
we can-
satisfy what John.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
when you look at that calendar, keep that in mind. I mean, we don't have dates.
There
yet,
are
I'm
no
just saying.
dates on the calendar,
Yeah,
so,
just the way it's set out, that how many meetings, that would make a lot more meetings.
good idea. Do you want to do old business, new business? What do you?
I wouldn't mind doing a chapter if you all want to dig in. It doesn't have to be,
Well,
well,
I didn't come prepared to talk. I mean, we have the economic development chapter. I think I need more time on the housing. I have lots of questions about the usefulness of different data in it. But we still have questions about,
Yeah, I mean, I expect there to be questions on all of the chapters. I don't think anybody's had a chance to thoroughly vet any of them. So, I mean, just if anybody had anything off the top of their head that they wanted to discuss.
I mean, these 4 chapters right here.
Yeah, any of
I
them.
just want to say, this is a general question that probably comes up for a lot of the data analysis. You really can't you can't mix data on charts and graphs that comes from projections like the American Community Survey and the census, which is a direct count, without indicating what you're doing.
You had that comment on the thing, didn't you?
I said this before,
I
but
saw that on the.
it should be something that's pointed out And hopefully our, consultants may not immediately see this, but there are many things, I think Petra will cover those things if she talks to them, but we really need to be careful and be consistent, because otherwise we don't have good counts.
Well, I mean, as it is for Shelter Island, we don't have any solid data. There is no good count for Shelter Island.
I understand that,
We
but
are so,
we're making estimates between
Correct.
counts, but we have
Yes.
to watch what we're presenting. Right.
Yeah, we've totally ignored that. No, I'm just kidding.
no, we understand that. And that's something that the consultants are going to be really good at.
Yeah, we hope, you know.
So we're going to hold them to that.
Well, I think for review, did we have the community housing survey? I mean, the report? Is this what we can
We
talk?
do, the community housing, the final version of the community housing plan is done. Yep.
So this is for today's agenda. Is this for
It's
discussion?
mostly, I wanted to let everybody know that it's there. The final is out. It's on the website. It's here. We can discuss it if you want to. I don't know if people are prepared
Is
to
it in the
discuss
comp plan chapters or where is?
It was an attachment.
think it was just in the email right now.
It was in the email.
I think it would be useful to discuss if people have read it. There are one or two things I'd like to bring up that concern me. Do we want to have a discussion of it?
I don't know, do people feel prepared
I
to
didn't
discuss it?
finish
I haven't read it yet.
Prepared? So then,
The housing plan?
I started it, but didn't get through it.
Oh, wait a minute, but that doesn't mean we can't listen to Lily's.
no, we can listen to Lily, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Bring up your issue with the housing plan.
With the housing plan, not the housing chapter.
Yeah, well, since it's going to be inserted into the housing chapter, I thought it was worthwhile bringing it
Yeah.
up. I have a major concern about, now I think it's important to use accessory dwelling units. But I have a major concern about pushing them forward as a sort of the way to handle a lot of our problems. Because I think in a way they're like a Trojan, they could be like a Trojan horse. They look like a gift, but they have a big sting attached. In fact, they can produce the opposite effect in the long run. And it goes somewhat this way. In a way, well, what is the motivation for doing it? First of all, we've had a program in place for many, many years in which you could do it, accessory housing. And the problem is no one signed up to do it. And people didn't sign a list of registration lists to accept it because people didn't want to have the controlled rent that they would be forced to, I can't rent my apartment for the market value necessarily. I'll have to pick what is out there. And people didn't want to give all their economic data to get on this list. And I believe that the current hope is that this will make for a lot of long-term rentals. On the other hand, if people keep building it, they're building out their accessory garages and houses and doing all of this, you're going to have a lot of potential apartments. And we had a big problem with our short-term rentals. There was a law, but there was no enforcement. There was basically no oversight. And I can foresee us doubling the density in good parts of the entire island by allowing accessory dwellings on every acre property. And at the same time, not being able to control if these are being used for short-term rentals or long-term rentals or any which way, because
They're kind of.
enforcing this becomes a really big problem. So I just wanted to mention as I was reading.
By right.
Sorry?
Except for the nearshore overlay, you can have an accessory dwelling if you have an acre.
If you have what?
An acre.
Yes, I understand.
Now you can.
Yes, I
Oh, okay.
understand this.
How would you
But
control the use?
But we're
I
now,
think that's her question.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a
Now
valid
we're on-
question.
Right.
But
we're now
wishing
making
to
it
encourage.
pushing
Right,
this as a big
right.
item. Right.
Right.
And I think that it
If you,
intentionally
yeah.
double the density of parts of the island and be very hard to control. I mean, I can't see us having people going out and policing. It hasn't happened with the short-term rentals, and we have over 200 of them. So just reading through everything, I had this concern that I want to put forth. And, a lot of good things in the report and the summary, but I did want to mention this concern.
No, that's a good concern. I think if you get that written down on the comp plan housing chapter, in the comments, because the housing plan is the housing plan, but that doesn't mean we can't say the comp plan recommends, et cetera, some limit somehow, which I think is already.
And another thing about the accessory dwellings that I noticed, if I remember correctly, they evade the Suffolk County sanitary code.
No, they don't.
They do. The sanitary code counts, it counts number of bedrooms. It does not count accessory dwellings within a major dwelling.
It does. So
It
the
does.
accessory dwelling is counted as a bedroom. So it is in the overall bedroom count for that
But it may not
property.
raise the bedroom
It
count.
would.
You see,
It would have to.
absolutely would.
Over the line.
What does that
But
mean?
if it's a 4-bedroom system, it's and the accessory is one of the 4 bedrooms, you're fine.
It depends.
Oh, on what?
On how many bedrooms and how it's counted. It's a less onerous measure than a dwelling.
No,
No.
It is not?
no. It is counted in the overall bedroom count of the property. So if you have a 3-bedroom home and you put in a 1-bedroom apartment above a garage, you now have a 4-bedroom property and your sanitary system must serve 4 bedrooms.
Right.
If you have a 3-bedroom house and a 2
Bedroom.
apartment above your garage, now you have a 5-bedroom property and your sanitary system must handle 5 bedrooms.
I'm
So,
sure you know this. I just, from the way it's written, I think it's on the bottom of page 22 of the community housing plan. It looks to me as if somehow it's more onerous to be under the dwelling unit than the bedroom, number of bedrooms for the sanitary.
so you're talking about 2 separate things. So an accessory dwelling unit for a property owner is an as of right according to Suffolk County. So you're allowed to have your primary dwelling and an apartment above a garage or something like that as a right. Now, if you do community housing and you put 4 apartments in one building on a lot, the sanitary code calculates that differently.
Yes.
And it is more strict for something like an apartment where you have 4 units.
Okay, thanks.
Two different calculations used by the county, because they assume that if you have 4 apartments, you also have 4 dishwashers, you have 4 washing machines, it multiplies. So it changes the sanitary calculation.
Absolutely. Right,
Yes.
that's all I
So
meant.
that, yes,
That's what I meant. It makes it easier. So it slips in more easily than certainly building 4 units on a place.
Well, no, this
No, I
says
don't think I
for
agree
most
with you.
residents on Shelter Island, an upgraded sanitary system would be required
Yeah.
yes.
for an accessory building.
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't let anybody get away with it. It makes it more
Better.
Sufficient capacity to allow the full number of bedrooms, including the apartment.
Right.
I think that's what she's
I was
saying.
I just was curious about.
But it's different usage. That's why the county calculates it differently. So if you have a single-family home with 3 bedrooms, then you have an apartment with 1 bedroom, the usage is different than if you were to have 4 families living in a building.
I understand that entirely. Therefore, it's easier to get in accessory apartments, which only add a bedroom.
Correct.
That's exactly my point.
If you add a
It slips
bedroom,
in more easily than other types of housing, if we're thinking about accommodation.
Right.
We don't have to deal with it. Exactly what I'm saying.
Is your concern then that these accessory buildings would really be hard to monitor, whereas an apartment building is pretty clearly an apartment?
Exactly. It makes, it's another reason that it makes it
well,
questionable in my
for
eyes.
society.
Really, the truth is, we really need the apartment buildings because we need full housing for full families.
Right.
That's the reality,
And for seniors and
unfortunately.
caregivers.
The ADU's not really gonna work for a couple.
No,
Right.
no, because what happens is the ADU only has a bed,
It's
and a
really good for a
toilet.
single
And then it
person.
has, what, a hot plate?
Well, no, it would be allowed to have a full kitchen.
Can have a
It would
kitchen.
have a full
It could.
Not in the near
it could have
shore.
a Kitchen.
Yeah.
It could have a complete kitchen.
It's interesting too, I can't remember where we are in this conversation, but you as a senior could move into your ADU and rent out your house.
Yes.
So now we've accommodated the family and we've accommodated the senior who doesn't really want to be in the up and down stairs anymore. So that is coming with the grant program that we just won. We won.
Well, CDCLI,
Is it not?
yeah, so CDCLI got a grant from the state for $2 million. And
Shelter Island.
they're earmarked that for Shelter Island. So residents can apply to CDCLI for funding to develop an ADU on their property.
They
So-
get a
And that
grant of up
comes
to
with-
150.
Exactly. The problem I have is people in the past did not want to be limited in the amount of rent they could charge and who they could choose to live in their property. And number two, it's hard to monitor.
Well, and those
I'm
people
just-
won't apply
but I
for
think
the
that-
So the grant has rules attached
Grant
to
has
it.
strings,
So
actually changed.
the people that are probably going to be coming forward
No,
to
it does,
take
10
advantage
years.
of the grant are
Take the
people
money,
who
you
are
have to sign
willing
up
to
for a 10
agree
year,
to
you know.
build it for this purpose
That would
of.
deal with
Well,
that
but
issue.
there's no for example,
there's
it
no-
also, the document also hopes that people will
enforcement stuff.
switch over. I was laughing when I read this, from short-term rentals to long-term rental. What is the motivation for this, please?
Well, if we say.
It's a
you
heck
can't-
of a
if
lot
we-
easier.
It's
a heck of a lot
But
easier.
also, if we say you can't, if we say short-term rentals are only allowed in a primary residence, they're no longer allowed in ADUs. We could, that could be, so there are ways, I
There are
think,
ways to try to do it, but it also,
but the question,
it ultimately ends up with enforcement and oversight.
yes,
Yeah.
You know,
What's the mechanism built
Right,
in to
exactly,
provide the checks and balances?
exactly, check and balance, thank you.
And also, there's has to be a realization there, which I think I'm keenly aware of now that I sat here, is, yeah, we all want enforcement, but we all like our taxes. And so everybody you hire, a new hire on this, in this town structure adds significantly to the budget, because it's a small budget to begin
I
with.
agree.
And so all the things we needed, we've mentioned this year, we'd love to have a planner. We would love to have a manager, we'd love to have at least one, maybe two more people in building, but those are the trade-offs.
No, this is something to consider, that's all.
Yeah, I think it needs to go,
There may be other issues, but this.
I think that needs to go in the housing
Well, actually, that's a
challenges.
huge problem.
Yeah,
That's a huge problem.
Yes.
That all of our, if we own a house, our taxes have to cover the services provided to people who are in these auxiliary
yeah.
units because they don't own, so they don't have to pay taxes. So
Oh, that's.
Well, they kind of
Well,
pay
they-
taxes indirectly through the rent, no? You don't
That's
have
an
that.
interesting.
Does the assessment of the primary,
Go up with the new
Go up with the
ADU?
new
Not if you take, if you, no.
It depends.
With the grant, it wouldn't. If you just do an ADU on your
If you
own,
take the grant.
yeah. So the grant has strings
so
attached.
so homeowners are then underwriting these subsidized accessory dwellings?
Yeah, but that argument could be used in other areas.
It's only 16 of them.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't have kids in.
I don't either, yes.
And these
So
subsidized.
I'm not making a value judgment, I'm just.
No, but I'm saying to begin with, these subsidized ones are 16. I don't know if that would require a whole new, just this one grant that we're talking about is maximum 16 units. That's not that onerous a thing to overlook, to oversee, I think.
Well, and a lot of the strings that were attached to it are also, it goes into like the deed of the property, it's tied to the tax rate. There's a whole bunch of things, they have it all mapped
So you
out.
have to be committed.
But you have to be committed, you have to want to do it. It has to be a person who's motivated to do it to help
Yeah.
expand the housing. So you're not gonna
That's
get
an incredibly
rush on it,
civic dedication
Yes.
on a island where most people are pretty independent and fiercely so about what anyone telling them
Absolutely.
to do.
So, you
But I
know,
actually have thought of a lot, I've mentioned this since we were notified of the award. I've mentioned this to quite a few people who I see saves, it almost saves their ability to stay on the island once they retire. People who have worked here, own homes here, but didn't necessarily have the excess to save very much. Maybe
And you're saying they move into the accessory dwelling?
right, or rent out either one, but because of the grant, they would accept because that might be
Because
their
there is
way.
something for them in it as well.
Yeah,
Right,
right.
that works.
There's no way
That's the
they
only way that they could afford
Petra's
it.
got it.
do it, exactly. So, and there's also a loan possible.
Yes, a gap, I know.
Just saying.
I know.
I just want to hand that out there.
I'm sorry, your hand is yellow and it's in the light, so it's hard to see.
Okay, sorry. So I think that this raises a lot of questions. I mean, Rebecca, you brought up the point of like affordable housing. I think there's the question of what is the actual number needed to satisfy affordable housing needs on the island? I think that's question number one is, how many do we actually need? And I'm guessing the consultants will look at that, but I think that is a big question that a lot of people have is, how many do we have today? How many do we need? I guess the question with this grant is, do all of these ADUs go to affordable housing?
Yes.
And is it
Yes.
long-term housing?
Yes.
10 years.
And is this also in addition to the other units that are being built on South Ferry Road? So then how many total units does that give us? I think the question is, where are these units being built? Are they subject to zoning? What is the additional tax assessment? To your point, BJ, does this raise money other than the grants, but any others? And does it need to go through the same kind of zoning process that any kind of variance goes under? Meaning, do neighbors have a say that, now most homes are on an acre and now things are being subdivided into half an acre? And what are the implications?
No, nothing's being subdivided.
It's not.
Nothing's being subdivided. So
Now, you could, if you have an acre, you could go build an ADU.
So nothing is being subdivided. So if you were subdividing it, that would create a whole new problem because we don't have half acre zoning, we have acre zoning. And so, no, anybody who opts to do this has to follow the current zoning code. They have to follow Suffolk County Department of Health regulations. They have to follow the code as it's laid out right now. Like they have to meet all the requirements. So, they can't go and just build an ADU in their neighbor's backyard or on the line because they want to. They still have to meet all the appropriate setbacks. They have to meet all the regulations. This is they have to go through the whole basic regular permitting process. They have to get Suffolk County Department of Health. They have to do everything that anybody building would have to do.
But if you have, right now, what you're saying is if you have an acre lot, you can put an ADU on.
Anybody
Is that
can right
correct?
now. As of right, you're allowed to do that unless you're in the near shore overlay. And Suffolk County Department of Health considers that an as of right as well. So, right now, people can do that.
Okay.
It's not new. It's not a new concept. It's just trying to target it specifically for long-term housing.
Yeah.
So if people choose to use the money, then they're tied into long-term housing. That's pretty much what that is. And that's not a grant that the town is running in any way. That's something that CDCLI is doing. The Community Development League of Long Island, I
Say
believe.
we can check with Liz Hanley, because when I spoke with her, she was saying something about that when a person accepts, I didn't get all the details, but when a person applies and accepts the grant, there are stipulations in signing that and agreeing to get these funds, so you're kind of bound to only, charge a certain amount of rent. And my impression was that there was some kind of monitoring mechanism with that grant, with CDCLI. So we can check with her and find out what that mechanism is.
And they're going to come and do a
That would be
presentation.
helpful.
Yeah, they're going to do a presentation to the town board at some point in the next few weeks because we haven't been fully brought up to speed on this. We were just told a couple weeks ago that it happened, so.
Just a quick question. It seems to me that I know of a lot of people who have garages, particularly in the Heights, whatever, and they've stopped short of putting in a kitchen or anything like that. And again, it's a hot plate, if anything, because of requirements. They've not been allowed to. So as of when has it been okay? I'm a little surprised to hear that it's been okay to have an accessory dwelling unit on your.
Heights might
Well,
be,
it might
the
be
heights
under
are
the
very
acre.
tiny.
Pardon?
The heights have very small properties. I mean, I think that's part of it. Properties are tiny. So they're not-
really have a full acre
That's the heights.
Yeah, so there's that. And the nearshore overlay, sort of a separate, nearshore overlay, you can have accessory.
I'm not talking about, yeah, but is it okay, it's been okay to do it all over the island?
No, only in certain, if you're an acre, what we're saying, there are certain districts, certain zoning
Got
you
it.
can. Heights, you're too
Right,
small,
okay.
okay?
And if you accept these funds, this grant funds, is there a limit to how big this ADU can be?
I haven't heard that, but we don't have the
No, I
full
do
program.
think
Is there?
that, I mean, it
Based on
has
the
to
money, how
meet,
much you can build out.
Yeah,
that's true, like the money itself is
yeah.
a limiting
Is
factor.
that covered in our current zoning as well? Accessory unit can only be,
A maximum of 2 bedrooms for an accessory.
they put a limit on it.
It's a two-bedroom.
Yeah.
It's
Is it
2 bedroom
two-bedroom?
max for accessory dwelling.
And they have a square footage on it too, I can't recall.
Right, yeah, no, just, it's important. Now that we're thinking about expanding.
Please,
Yeah,
for
I can't
us
see
now,
why
where,
anyone's gonna do more.
supposed to be gonna be
When they
unconditioned
can do
space,
short.
but it's a big building.
It's
That's
such
a secondary building.
Right, but that's a wide open workshop. That's not, it doesn't have bathrooms, it doesn't have.
thinking of,
Only for
Okay, well, we'll talk about that. But
otherwise.
but there are, I have seen some big accessory dwellings, all, that I've, but since I've been here,
but most of
approved.
them are attached to larger acreages. So that's
Very
the
good.
caveat there.
But I'm saying, so it's sort of to your point, you can call it 2 bedrooms, but it can be a fairly large scale building.
So bottom line, there's lots of things going on, but we shouldn't just say, take it at face value. There's a lot of particulars and details to it, because I've heard so much stuff to get talking on the street, and people are like, but, you know.
And then there's Governor Hochul's
my
proposal. What was the number? It would mean,
25 units per acre is
right.
per
I mean,
vision.
we can't support that
Which
on
is
shelter.
not, it's not realistic.
Yeah,
It's
it wasn't aimed
so,
at this community.
No, it wasn't.
no.
It
Communities
wasn't.
like this.
No, we have to figure out some sort of exemption if that goes through, if
Yeah.
it goes through.
Well, I mean, there's no way we could do it because we don't have the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Suffolk County Department of Health would just,
Can't have no place for it.
no, you can't, we don't, it's not feasible.
So, but what you, to Rebecca's point, there's so many balls in the air right now. You know, it does bear close paying attention to Community Housing Board, what they're doing, Town Board, what we're doing, looking on the website, getting the agendas.
And
seeing-
developers, I mean, this is a opening market. They're all out there trying to figure out what they can do. Yeah.
Just to speak to Petra's point, there is a whole needs assessment section to this that has a lot of data included.
Yes.
The accuracy I can't speak to, but it's certainly, it's looked at a lot of the issues that we're talking about right now.
John?
2 points. One, Jay made in his comments on our chapter, he said that an incentive for people to put a unit in on their property is that maybe an arrangement can be made with the homeowner and the tenant that you can watch over my property for some reduction in fees so that I can, you know, especially if they don't live on island year round. So this could be a way that people who are summer renters, owners, they would have someone in the property looking over things, doing odd jobs, whatever it may be, in lieu of rent. But that was a good point, and you're talking about what's going to incentivize people to do this. I think that's a valuable one. And the second one is, I've been a short-term rental owner, property owner for years, and people are converting to full-time rentals. One cash flow situation, it's an annual rate. And the benefits of that, again, is someone's there all the time. I can go away. They can look after my property while I'm gone or do odd jobs. I can make arrangements with them. There's in lieu of, depending upon what that person maybe does as a living, there's certain arrangements we can make to make it more reasonable for them. So there's other ways that can incentivize it also. So we're just
Yes.
Be mutually beneficial to have a long-term renter.
Yeah.
And they also have a sense of kind of ownership on the property, you know, if it's their long,
Water use
yeah.
is probably more responsible from someone who is connected to community versus a visitor.
And they also take care of space better, because they're living there longer.
And what's considered short term? Are you talking about the summer or the winter or just 2 weeks
They define
vacation?
short term as like 2 weeks or less, according to the law.
I forgot one more aspect of that. When the town changed the rules to only turnovers every 14 days, that reduced my income
Right,
as a short-term renter. I had so many people who just want to come for a week.
right.
All of a sudden now, I'm losing money. I can either raise my rates, which then makes me out of limits for people. So it really makes it was better for me to go to year-round. So for the last 3 years, we've been year-round.
Interesting. Interesting.
So it's 2 weeks at a time is a short term. So it's 14 days and then, or, you know, if people who do it seasonally, you know, a month here, a month there, and it's turning over. You know, anything really less than a year is sort of short term.
However, John's honest, and there are people that don't do this, that don't follow the rules. I mean, we all know areas of the island where
Not to raise
it's
a red flag,
happening.
but
May not
I guess you,
more than once. I mean, I've certainly, I have an accessory building on my property. It's guest house. I've had people stay there in the winter to look after the property when I wasn't here and to do work during the winter.
Yeah.
And then come spring, they go away, and then I come back and use that as a guest cottage, which is what it is.
Yeah. That's fine.
so it seems like one of the documents we would need would be a guide to, which just went right out of my head, like you're now the apartment manager.
Right.
You know, you're a landlord.
Yeah.
So all of the rules that pertain to being a landlord, of which there are multitude,
Yes.
now have to be, you know, presented to these homeowners so that they fully understand what they're responsible for and what they can or can't do with the
Right.
renters.
Well, that's the other thing, and it's sort of it's a little bit off center of Lily's point, but the rules idea. We are working on updating the rental code in general, just in what is required. Now you can sign an affidavit saying, I followed all the rules, and we're saying, no, you're gonna have to have an inspection by
To make sure you have the smoke detectors.
and this is the safety first thing that I'm talking about right now, but we're doing that sort of in anticipation of, as a reaction to what happened in Noyak last summer, and in anticipation of perhaps a few more year-round rentals.
Right.
So hopefully, we're on that pretty.
Well, nationally, I
BJ.
say
Yeah,
Will that include also rental updates for short-term rentals? Because like many have stated on the phone, I think if you do have longer-term rentals, you do have people that have more of a commitment to the island. I think one of the things we've seen with shorter-term rentals is people come and they don't care about the island, right? They come for a weekend, they come for a wedding, they come for whatever. And quite frankly, they don't try to blend into the community. They do exactly the opposite, and they don't take care of the natural environment. They have no concern for the neighbors that may live in that area. So if I might encourage us to also consider not only rules for long-term rentals, but to perhaps revise and reinforce for short-term rentals.
yeah.
Yeah, I know that our code enforcement has been training and getting prepared for the upcoming season, and the building department is revamping how they're monitoring short-term rentals. So we had Granicus, which is a outside company, Host Compliance, was monitoring the short-term rentals, and we found that they weren't very effective, they weren't very accurate, and, you know, they were sending out non-compliance letters to people who didn't even have rentals. So we've eliminated them, and now the building department is going to be doing it independently, because they're familiar with all the properties, they know what they're looking at. So they're developing their system for how they're going to monitor the short-term rentals this season. And they've been taking classes at Association of Towns. I know that Mike was doing a whole bunch of work.
And this updated.
That's interesting.
The updated.
Without
safety-
hiring anyone else. That's interesting. We'll see what
Well,
happens.
Michael was hired for this purpose.
Yeah, that's
So
actually.
that was actually why
A new position.
he was hired for
There are two new positions.
code enforcement. So it's, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, let's see. I thought I saw.
This housing plan, though, was approved. So it's a fait accompli.
Right, it's our chapter and our chapter's response.
That is still in.
That is, yeah, exactly,
Yeah, but it's definitely part of it,
right.
you know. So, and as we were saying, you know, so if there's a part of it, ADUs, so maybe we put in a cautionary note if you're worried about the speed of it.
One has
So-
to really try to see what the issues, and other people may think of other issues
Yeah.
to put in.
Right.
And this is very,
Things to be aware of, things that we have to make sure that we're accounting for, definitely include them there because, you know, the housing plan was just passed, so now you have to work on how you're going to implement that. Well, the comp plan is here at the same time, so we can put down the concerns and things that need to be addressed in the implementation of that housing plan. So absolutely put your concerns in the document so that they can be accounted for.
The comp plan housing.
Comp plan, housing plan.
Chapter. Your concerns about the housing plan go in the comp plan housing chapter.
Right.
I understand. No, I understand.
You did confuse it, but then you fixed it.
I understand.
Because otherwise.
All right. Anyone have anything else? 7:30, we could,
I just got the notice that the school is gonna have a delayed opening.
school's gonna have
Yay.
a delayed opening for snow.
For snowing?
One last question. When we're putting in comments, we're not supposed to use SharePoint. There's a problem with just putting them at the end because you can't.
Aren't we using SharePoint?
You can put it into SharePoint.
We can still use
Yeah.
SharePoint. Okay, we got it.
We're back on that again. That's right, yeah.
But with the-
We're with that.
All of them on SharePoint or maybe just some
Yes,
of them?
I put them all in the SharePoint chapter for,
Okay.
Oh, I thought we were going to say though, I thought anything we labeled penultimate had to be done by
these are the
comment.
penultimate ones. These are the ones that we haven't commented on yet.
All the new ones.
All the new
Oh,
chapters
okay.
are in the SharePoint for you guys to comment on.
All right, gotcha.
And that's 5, 6, 8, and 11.
Then we can do them on the line.
Exactly.
Yes.
Otherwise, you'll never find.
Then you have your reference
Yeah.
point, yeah. Yes, 5, 6, 8, and 11.
Okay.
In that order?
Whatever order you want.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yes.
Somebody
So-
whispered.
Motion to adjourn. All right, so
We should hear from the owner.
you will hear from us. We are going to, oh, yes. Does anyone from the audience have any questions or comments?
I have a couple comments. This is Kim. I've been here before, sorry. I know it's been a long meeting and everything. But I really think it's confusing about the ADUs. What I listened to very clearly is that we don't necessarily have the housing plan number of units figured out. And yet, so we don't know, what the need is, and yet there's a possible encouragement of what could turn into just plain old downzoning, 2 houses per lot. So, that's like one big question I had. The other question is, and this is like the horse is already out of the barn, so I'll be very brief. The consultants that you guys picked, their qualifications and references are for all these big towns. And I was wondering why you didn't pick somebody, or at least interview somebody from another island. I also noticed that in their RFP, the request that you put out, they already have in there that they are going to give a negative declaration on SECRA and that no environmental impact statement will be necessary. And it just strikes me that.
Can you give me the page on that?
I did not see
I
that.
didn't see that. Can you give me the page on that, please?
I haven't read that.
Well,
See that now.
it's like a 66-page document and,
That's a significant sort of statement, though.
What they're saying is, this contract is, if it is a negative declaration, if it is a positive declaration, then those are additional services. Because a positive declaration for SECRA requires a far more extensive
GEIS.
scope of work. So
Yeah, I agree.
they're not saying this is automatically a neg deck. They're
no,
saying.
I know it's not automatic. Just read it because it's
me
going
to read
in
it
that
verbatim?
direction.
No,
Absolutely.
that's just not.
I have it
It's
right
on
here.
page
That's your
40.
interpretation, but I don't
So-
believe that's.
So I have it in front of me. I'll just read it.
Read it, yeah.
So it's on page 38. And it says, the project assumes a negative declaration. However, if it is determined that this plan would have significant environmental impacts, a positive declaration, and GEIS is required, that work would be provided under a separate scope of services.
Correct. So that, your interpretation is open to interpretation.
Wait, can I just, can I?
Yeah, I know, it always is.
So,
It always is, okay.
is that
A bigger.
Listen, guys,
One person.
Sean, that Sean
didn't
just
have
read?
any input on this consultant, and I gotta tell you, the consultants that have been picked by the town over the last few months, this looked to me a lot like the Nelson Pope Voorhees situation on TDRs. Okay, I'm done.
I was just gonna say that.
Okay,
the
thank you,
sentence
Kim.
That he read, to me, that's about their bill.
Yeah, exactly.
They're giving us a
That's a
forewarning, like, look,
proposal, yeah.
if we go this direction, it may cost you a little bit more money, and if you don't, you're gonna stay within the budget. That's
It's an important question of the bill, because
gonna be
if there is a positive declaration,
Are we gonna
where's the
find
money
it?
coming?
Yeah, right.
Well, you guys are
Get that grant.
Exactly, that's our problem.
No, that's very
It's
clear.
standard.
It's very clear.
Yeah.
It's very clear.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope we have to go find the money, but that's a different issue.
You do, you want
Thanks, everybody, for listening.
No, thank you, thank you.
Pam?
Yes.
Oh, no, Pam Demarest has her.
Pam.
Pam?
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hi, Pam.
Hi there. I have a question about the community housing plan. Now, you say it's passed. Actually, the resolution will be passed by the town board tomorrow night at the town board meeting from
Correct.
what I see on the agenda. I am a little concerned about what Lily has saying this evening. And since you're hiring a consultant and this plan will become part of the comprehensive plan, I think that the consultant that we are now hiring as of tomorrow should have an opportunity to look at this plan before the town board passes the resolution to say that, okay, we're okay with this plan. I'm not really sure I understand that. I'm sorry, let me just finish. I'm not really sure.
No.
I'm not really sure I understand why we're keeping the consultant out of the conversation, since in fact we're
Unintended
hiring one
consequence.
for this comprehensive plan.
Would be wise.
Thanks, Pam.
As an unintended consequence, then the town board should probably not pass the resolution tomorrow night. It seems like there are a lot of questions from this committee about ADUs and other things with this community housing plan. So I am
Been around
rather
for a
concerned
while.
putting the cart before
There's a
the horse.
So
I
Pam,
know that it has been. I know that the discussion has happened, but there was concerns that came up in this meeting tonight. So I'm just putting it out there as
Very tiny.
an observation and a concern.
Oh, yes.
thank you, Pam, and
very
I
good.
appreciate your comments. If you can put those concerns into the
You're welcome.
comprehensive plan chapter, then we can include that in our document. The housing plan was created by different consultants and a different group, a different committee. So we can't really change their plan, their report, but we can control ours. So please include your comments in the comp plan chapter on housing, and we will incorporate them.
Give you an idea, they don't.
Okay, I'll be glad to do that. I just wonder, I just finished. I just wonder if this new consultant coming in on the comprehensive plan may find something awry with the community housing plan and therefore make recommendations to change it. I mean, many phases, many voices should be heard on the entire process. I mean, I'm not looking to derail any of this process. It just seems that if you were in fact hiring a consultant now to look at what you've already reviewed, this should be something I think they should look at.
Thanks for your
If
advice.
the resolution can be amended at a later date, should that.
Okay,
consultant
thanks for
find
your
something
advice.
that
I think
we
we've
find-
heard that point. Do you have another point, Pam, please?
I think she turned.
You know, BJ, that's really a very important point. I think that should
I
be
know,
taken
and I
into
heard it.
consideration. If you'd agree with me-
I agree with you,
Okay.
and that it's important. So yes. I just want to know if you have another one.
I'm just wondering if if there's an opportunity for amendment, should that moment of rights, that's all.
Wrong committee.
That's all,
Well,
that's
I
all,
mean,
you know.
yes, so the consultant will be given the housing plan along with our housing chapter. If they find something that flashes, they will let us know. And with the community housing plan, it has to be revised every 5 years. So there's always
Not written
room
in
to
stone.
amend it and to adjust it if necessary.
The cat can be out of the bag in 5 years.
Thank you very much. I do understand that.
You're
I
welcome.
do understand that, Meg. Thank you very much.
Do we have any, do they give any estimate or thoughts on that additional cost if there's a positive declaration?
No. But we have done other similar processes, and
GIS is
around
kind of,
$100,000.
Another 100?
yeah,
So
but you have to have a comp plan.
But it
Yeah, you have to have, you know,
Depends on the.
you have to have one of these.
It depends on the
1994 is
complexity we're
old.
looking at.
So we have to spend this money, but
Oh, no,
there,
I'm not
but
talking
there
about the
is grant
90, I'm
money.
talking about the extra
Additional,
money.
but the
Yeah.
GIS, I think, is a pretty extensive thing.
It's
that would be in
also,
the following year's budget,
It
probably.
would have to be. And another grant cycle.
And another 100 grand. Okay.
So could I ask a clarification?
Yes.
Because I'm sorry, I don't understand that. So what's the difference between a positive and negative?
so a positive declaration would occur if you are doing something substantial that is also a negative impact. So it has to be something significant and negatively impact the environment. So you can do something significant, but it may not have a negative consequence in the environment. So, for example, upgrading IA systems is a significant move, but it has a positive turn on the environment. So,
No houses above 2,000 square feet
So
ever.
let me just ask a question.
Big impact positive.
Is there any possibility that this housing plan as presented could possibly end up having this negative impact?
Absolutely.
very,
No.
intentionally.
No, no.
There are other.
There are
It's not
limits on
as
it.
written.
It's unlikely.
Not as,
It's
It
very
normally
unlikely.
comes up in the context of this wastewater treatment plant that's been kicked
Right.
around the island.
Okay.
Right.
Started at Clinowickus, now it's on Manwaring, and if that goes forward, it's actually at the point now where we're kind of waiting for a positive or negative declaration.
we're doing a secret review right
It's
now.
in the secret review process
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Because it does have an impact on the environment. It's a determination of whether it's a detrimental negative impact on the environment. That's what they're assessing. And if so, what's the scale? What's the mitigating factors? Can you do things to eliminate that negative impact? So that's part of the whole SECRA review process. So with a comp plan, your goal of a comp plan is really to do no harm to the environment. So if you have a good comp plan, you're not destroying your environment. So, if you have a good comp plan, it shouldn't give you a positive declaration. It shouldn't be that you're creating a hazardous condition. If if your comp plan is to create a nuclear waste site, then you need SECRA. But, hopefully that is not the goal. Hopefully the goal is to, preserve character and preserve the environment and not create these negative conditions that would, trigger a significant,
Well, we've talked about the tension between development and business growth and this housing issue and its effect on the water supply, which is a pretty significant, potentially significant. So I'm not an alarmist, but
Yeah.
that would be something that I'm hoping that you're right, that it's likely to happen.
right. And that's something that the consultants would analyze.
Not so much-
And the county, actually, the county gets involved in that too. So when the whole comp plan goes to the county planning commission, they look at it too, and they kind of do their own internal, and, they think it requires more extensive review, then they make that recommendation. So it's not just, the town consultant saying, you're good to go. It comes from the county and then,
So part of crafting this comprehensive plan should be with the idea that we don't want a positive.
you don't want to harm your environment. Yeah. You don't want to create a condition that would require that. Because that means that you're creating a significant negative impact on your
And
environment.
our consultants will be monitoring that.
Correct.
Yeah, and what you just said about, by, doing more rentals or year-round housing, part of what's also happened to me, in my eyes, on the island over the last decade or more, is we've taken down a lot of modest cottages. And if not taken them down, then ballooned them. And no one really speaks to that impact on water supply. We all are concerned about, the married couple living above a garage. But that impact of, 12 bedrooms, some with kitchenettes, I mean, because you have to have your coffee in the morning or whatever. I just think that should be part of the comprehensive plans housing chapter.
Yep.
Do we want to do something about that? Now, let's not just focus on the one end.
In the housing chapter, at the very end of action items, whether to say something about size. I read it briefly.
Yeah, no, but
They're taking down 2,000 square foot houses and building 9,000.
You go through
gotta have an impact.
South Ferry Hills,
Has,
High-Low, they were all modest homes on smallish parcels that are just getting bulldozed one by one. It's extraordinary.
It is. And I think
houses are
that
huge.
impact very
To
places.
the property lines.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, there's been 3 on my block.
Yeah.
really.
This year.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
And it definitely
Silver Beach
disrupts
is booming right
wildlife.
now.
Yeah.
It disrupts everything versus a little modest cottage.
Yeah.
Used to be all summer cottages, and now it's,
right, exactly.
not all of them are 9,000 square foot, but
That's
even
exactly.
6,000 is significant when it used to be
We're in the-
1,000.
It was, the cottages were wonderful.
Right?
Wonderful.
Have to heat and air condition and clean a 6,000 square foot house. Gotta clean the whole thing all the time.
All right, anybody else? All right.
When's our next date? Are we not doing
Well,
March?
we're gonna talk to the consultants and pick a day that everybody can get together and we can
So March 27th.
update everybody on the plan.
We're not sure about March 27th.
Not sure about March
We
20th.
only have 3 meetings with them,
That's
us.
what they have on here. So
But like you were
we'll,
saying, maybe we'll.
That's why I want
they want to do more.
Right.
groups.
Okay.
I think that means cycling you guys in, it doesn't just rest with us. To share the burden a little. So, but we have to see who's available, among you. And that's the other
And,
thing,
you
if
know-
you guys want to go over every chapter that's left, then you have probably more than one meeting a month. Among us, never mind the consultant.
And I think what we maybe best do, since we have such a plate in front of us, to look for the issues.
Mm-hmm.
In the things that really emerge, because they just may have slipped by, like this question I raised about it. But just let's look at the chapters and see if there are inconsistencies or things that are really bothersome. I think look with a critical eye.
I found it very helpful when we split them up, to be honest with you.
And
Our little team worked really hard on one
I'd like to look
chapter.
at all of them.
Well, there's no reason you can't. I'm just simply saying, we got more done, I think, than we were all looking at all of
groups
this.
work well for just fine tuning things.
That's just a comment, right?
Yeah. All right, so can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Third.
Lovely evening, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for staying for us.